Senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are.
Well, it is busy here on the Hill, but I'm always delighted to join you.
Thank you. You know, I'm old enough to remember when Donald Trump was standing on a stage with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, and the media demanded that he turn to Putin and basically call him a fascist or a dictator or authoritarian. Today, President Biden is meeting with Xi Jinping. Do we expect that Joe Biden is going to call out Xi Jinping on human rights or censorship or lockdowns or the Uyghurs or cozying up to Russia or any of that?
Or COVID or the spy balloon or what TikTok is doing to our kids or what fentanyl, which comes out of China, is doing to 100,000 Americans who lose their lives every year and the devastation that is there. But no, Joe Biden doesn't want to do that. What he wants to talk about is the economy in China and the U.S. and how we build a more inclusive economy for everyone. Code word for higher taxes so we can redistribute your money and everyone can have the same. He also wants to talk about workers' rights and why there should be unions in China. And then he wants to talk about climate change and what needs to be done there. But, you know, the conversation should be, China, what happened with COVID? What did you do there? What about that lab? What about the spy balloon? What about TikTok? What about the Uyghurs? What about all the human rights violations? The list goes on. And Joe Biden should not even meet with Xi Jinping until he comes clean about COVID and stops sending fentanyl and comes clean about the spy balloon and they stop all the human rights abuses. And once they've done that, then sit down and have a conversation.
What about the triangular or trilateral relationship between Iran, Russia, and China? The Associated Press just reported yesterday that the Biden administration lifted sanctions on the sale of Iranian energy to Iraq to the tune of $10 billion on top of the $6 billion that they released in frozen assets that are driving the resources to Hamas and Hezbollah. These three countries are forging a very dangerous alliance, and Biden seems completely left out of it.
And what he has done is to embolden Iran because they think that they can play whatever game they want to play and the U.S. will do nothing to them. And you know, as well as I know, that if Iran gets their hands on a dollar, what they do is to put that money into enriching uranium. They put it into funding terrorism. They're the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. And under President Donald Trump and the sanctions he put on Iran, they had gotten to the point they were only making about $10 billion a year on oil sales. Under Joe Biden, they're making $1 billion a week. And a lot of that money is going in to, of course, funding terrorism. Iran gives Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all of them, about $100 million a year because they are Iran's proxies. They carry out the dirty work, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, ISIS in Syria, ISIS Iraq, the Islamic Republic, the Revolutionary Guard. They're all dependent on Iran. And under President Trump, Iran was about broke because of all the sanctions.
Talk to me about your efforts to make public the flight logs to Epstein's pedophile island. And I'll say this, if there are Republicans on there, we don't need them. Why is this some big secret?
It has been astounding to me that in a time when human trafficking and sex trafficking is just running rampant, every 2 minutes in this country, a child is bought or sold for sex. And you have probably the most high-profile human trafficking and sex trafficking ring that has come to light, and that was Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And we've not been able to find out all the people that flew on Lolita Express, where they were picked up, where they were flown to, how long they stayed. We would like to have that information of who was on the planes that Jeffrey Epstein owned. And I know that people who are stockholders in companies, they would like to know if anybody from their company was a part of this sex trafficking ring. And people want to know who was flying in and out of there and how long they were there. So Senator Durbin is chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we see things very differently. One of his goals has been to delegitimize the Supreme Court because we know that the Democrats want to pack the court. So Senator Durbin's been after Justice Thomas. So if they are going to play this game and file subpoenas on individuals who are friends of justices, I've got a list of subpoenas that I want, and Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs are at the top of that list.
Why would we only got 2 minutes left? Why would anybody want to protect the people, or is it a scary list?
I have no idea. No one knows. This is why we need to see it. This is one of the largest sex trafficking rings. I also want to find out about Justice Sotomayor's book deal. We have found out through news reports that she was paid a $3 million advance, unreported, and that her court staff has been very aggressive in calling places where she goes to speak, having them purchase books. She's made $4 million on her book deal, and 2 different times the publisher of her book came before the Supreme Court on copyright infringement issues, and she did not recuse herself. So let's subpoena the emails and the memos that were around that and find out how this happened but was not reported. But the Democrats seem to think that's okay. But being a friend of a justice is not okay, and that's going to get you subpoenaed if that justice is a constitutionalist or a more conservative justice.
So we're going to have to close up here. If you're hiding this list, if there's some reason why we can't see this list of people that were involved in this sex trafficking ring, I mean, that's kind of frightening, right? If the list is too high level, that means we have some very sick people in our government. And like I said at the beginning of this, I'm willing to lose any Republican that's on that list. Senator, thank you so much for your time. I got to leave it there.